Hello and welcome to Stationery Test Drive with Inky Memo. Today we are going to be talking about the Pentel Graph 600 mechanical pencil. But before we get to that, I'm Samir.
I'm Vishal,
This is Minjal.
and we'll talk a little about the kind of work we're up to right now. I have a couple of projects that have been in the offing for a while. They're websites, and since we record these a little early, I'm not sure which of them is going to be public yet, but that will be on screen right now, and you can find it at the link in the description. Samir?
Vishal is working on mysterious websites, is the message. Minjal?
I've been practicing some calligraphy scripts and I'm making Instagram reels. So do check them on my Instagram account.
And I have also been working on a website. It's not quite there yet, but it's going to be something related to Indian history. And I don't know, like Vishal, at what stage of development this is going to be when this goes out, but we'll put it on screen. And hopefully there'll be something to see and a link in the description.
Or there'll be a picture of a 404 not found right now on screen. So
We'll just make sure that it's historically accurate.
yes,
And also, it's not as boring as history was taught in school, right?
we make no guarantee of that. But just like this show is about enthusiasm for things and for stationery, I'm sure we'll bring the same spirit to all our things.
That is the hope.
But Samir, tell us about this wonderful mechanical pencil by Pentel.
Can I just interrupt and say that this is like one of the best mechanical pencils I've used ever.
And this is, let's get this out of the way straight. This is not the best pencil that Pentel purports to make. There's a lot of P sounds in here. We should have got a pop guard. This is the Graph 600. It's very much in the mid range. It's a metal body construction, I believe, but maybe there's composites in there. It's very well weighted, very well balanced. It sort of tips towards the front, which I know a lot of people don't like. But as someone who's used this particular pencil for nearly a decade now, this is one of my favorite tools. This is the one that I keep on me to the point where I keep this one at home because I don't want to lose it. I've kind of gotten the sentimental value for it, and I carry a cheaper pencil if I'm in my bag going outside. That one's by Faber-Castell, so don't feel bad. It's a good pencil. It's just not as good as this one.
And also, speaking of cheaper pencils, this is actually available for 250 Indian rupees, which is very economical.
$3 or $4, which is still pretty decent, but considering the ceiling for mechanical pencils used to be, $1 at most, even when growing up, and they were all pretty badly engineered and pretty badly made. They were all plastic construction.
Plastic.
They would often just break. They would
The clutch mechanism would often break.
Would get
It
stuck.
would get stuck.
This is now dozens, if not hundreds, of leads later. This pencil is going strong. I use it a lot. And Minjal, I think you got this one fairly new.
Yeah.
So you were a convert because I influenced you. See, I can do that.
Yes,
And I'm going to be
absolutely.
influenced very soon to get a third one. So.
Yeah.
So we have a stationery influencer already amongst us.
I mean, there is the Pentel Graph 1200 or 1000, and I'm sure it's wonderful. But I see no reason not to use this. I use this all the time. And what we have used it for this week is what we do every week, which is artwork made to our own particular strengths and interests with stuff. This is what Minjal has done. Minjal, tell us about this spiral fan of.
It's beautiful.
It is.
I was actually looking up 3D alphabets and trying to figure how they, the construction of the alphabets. And I came across something like this on Pinterest, and I thought it would be a nice idea to replicate it using the pen. The pencil.
So is this a V, an S, a J?
It's actually a ribbon.
Okay.
It's a 3D spiral ribbon.
I think in some ways it comes across more in landscape than in portrait for me.
It looks it's one of those abstract pieces of art that's
That-
kind of
and like all good pieces of art can be
which you
viewed
can
pretty
see
much.
in different ways if you just rotate it.
Yeah.
I mean, my experience, and I used a metal ruler like this to create the lines, and just the grip of this pencil is fantastic. It feels really, really nice using it.
We have a sacrificial piece of paper
Yes,
always.
it feels really nice using it with the metal ruler, and you can really create these fine lines and go on and on and on.
And the consistency of this is what people look for in a mechanical pencil. Is that not? That's certainly what I look for in partially. Where you can do either that uh, with a ruler, but also you can get the same thing with.
The line weight and the line quality stays exactly the same as you want it to.
And I'm using the original Pentel LEDs that came with the pencil. And again, it's one of the finest, darkest LED that I've used in a while.
See, I don't even remember what I'm using. One of the weird things that I only really cottoned onto as an adult is that you can load these up with multiple LEDs. I think that's a side effect of getting a pencil this good, because all the older ones would get jammed up if you put multiple
if you put
LEDs
more
in.
than
The
that.
choke would. Whereas this one perfectly, you can put a dozen LEDs, and sometimes that's what I've done. So I don't even remember what brand it is. It might be
A mix.
yeah, it might be a mix of them. You get colored LEDs. We'll talk about those as well sometime. But yeah, this one you can just load a dozen of them, and you just have a pencil that's ever consistent, if not necessarily sharp, because even these pencils have sharp ends that you can develop over time and then sort of rotate into. This is a clutch pencil, so we can talk about that mechanism as well, which keeps it clutched in a particular orientation. So when I'm drawing this way, I'm creating a beveled edge, which has then a leading edge and a flat side. But there are other kinds of mechanical pencils, aren't there, Sam?
Yes, I think most mechanical pencils use a clutch mechanism, but there are also some that use a rotary and a screw-based mechanism. So
And-
you rotate the end of it to extend the lead.
And that is one of those newer styles where it kind of keeps everything constantly rotating. There's a newer
Yes,
where then you don't end up with you end up with a much more consistent line overall. It's always kind of rounded, and I think people who write things with it enjoy that. But we as artists want these more.
yeah. So those new mechanisms, and I haven't actually tried one of those, is that this front bit which holds onto the lead is actually a little flexible, and any pressure onto this causes a slight rotation of the whole mechanism. So as you write, it keeps rotating through like a 360 degrees, and therefore you're constantly writing on every edge of the tip of the lead.
Okay.
Minjal, you have two papers here. Are
Yes,
we
I
allowed
have.
to show the other
Yes,
side? So
yes, sure.
before we get to our own,
So this is the other piece I created
oh, that is lovely.
with the mechanical pencil again. Like I said, I really enjoyed using it, so I ended up making more than one piece.
And these really showcase the technical pencil quality of these.
Yeah.
Like this is
These are also called technical pencils by a lot of people.
they have a strangely wide variety of names for this pencil. The generic terms that people call it across the world vary a lot. They're called technical pencils, they're called automatic pencils, they're called mechanical pencils.
And that rotary one that you're saying is in some ways fully automatic, because you never need to do this, which is
right.
it just keeps
extends
feeding.
automatically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is in some ways the true automatic pencil.
And in some parts of the world, this is also supposedly called a pump pencil. So
I mean, I guess this seems like how you'd operate a pump. So that might be where that comes from.
So more interesting stationery names are always coming out in these videos.
See our episode on the Sakura jelly roll for ball busting fun, really. Samir, why don't you show us yours? We rarely show each other what we've done before, so this is all a kind of a surprise for each of us. You have taken the line art quality of this pencil to its maximum.
That's really, really nice.
I think what I wanted to go in the other direction. What Minjal went for was consistency. I wanted to see how far I can push the variety of line it can make.
Right.
So
And-
I did want consistent lines so that this can be a sort of Ligne Claire style, which is,
Ligne Claire is, or Ligne Claire, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it in French, but it's the style that you must have seen Tintin comics, if you've ever seen them, are done in that. It's a clear line.
clear line.
Or a clean line.
It's not
quite-
necessarily a consistent line,
Yeah.
but one that's clean. So I did go for that through most of this drawing, but I was also trying to see if I could do things like textures. And the weighted pencil just really helps when you do things like
I think that the fact that this area of where you keep your hands is pretty much an entirely a metal
Yes.
construction. It weighs it forward, and I told you that some people don't like that. For an artist, for me, it's brilliant. I like the forward weight.
Before we talk more about the pencil, this drawing is just on a personal note. This drawing is kind of an inside joke for myself because
It's a throwback as well.
it's a throwback to something that I drew 20 years ago.
Yes.
20 years ago, I worked on a children's book which was called The Higgledy-Piggledy House.
It's called Zack and the Higgledy-Piggledy.
Yes. And in it, the character of Zack, a little boy, is scared by the little mouse that lives in his room. And this drawing for me was kind of a reversal of roles. I'm sure we'll find the old illustrations and put it on screen.
Zack must be a ripe old, elder Generation Zer by now, I'm guessing. So
I'm sure.
I've done something also for old people, for the various aches and pains that we have. And I kind of went in the other direction of Samir and Minjal, where I didn't go for precision, I didn't go for clear line, but I used it to build up value and build up a sense of light and shade. And yes, this is the same pencil. That's the thing we like to show on Test Drive. It's what you can do, what each of our individual skills can bring to all of these.
The interesting thing is that we always, most of the time, seem to come up with three completely different interpretations without actually exchanging.
Yeah,
notes
we
before.
almost never show each other and say, okay, you do this, I'll do that. So this just comes up however it does. And this was literally last minute. I did this last night without really even knowing what I was drawing when I started drawing it. I knew there was going to be a tiger because we are into the year of the tiger now. So Happy New Year. By the time this comes out, it's well into the year. But yeah, this is my favorite pencil. So I know it wouldn't let me down in terms of being able to pull this off. And that's, I think, a great thing for any tool to have. You don't have to worry. There are enough worries as an artist, as a creator, as to what you're going to put down on a blank page. And this one, at least you know, is going to be there with you along the ride and not let you down. Every line on this is from one pencil, and I think that shows the range, literally, figuratively, that you can get from that to that and here.
Yeah. Also, as I was mentioning earlier, the eraser on this one, the plug is fantastic.
Okay, these are not known for being good. Just like the old mechanical pencils that we grew up with, the eraser was terrible. Here, let me use it to get a nice little highlight here. There, that is superb.
So I guess we need to explore Pentel erasers at some point.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is a perfect package. I mean, it writes well. It looks good. It has a functional eraser.
And mind you, not just functional eraser. Artists look for erasers of this gauge, of this type. If you buy a electric eraser, it often has a head that's exactly like this.
Yeah, pretty much exactly that.
I think Tombow makes something called the Mono Zero, which is even thinner than this, which is used for pulling out highlights. That's what most of them are for. You don't use these for
Erasing.
bulk erasing. For that, you go and you get the trusty Natraj Plasto 621, which we have made an episode of, and please go and watch that. Are there any downsides to this other than the fact that we love it too much and it gets a bit too...
I couldn't find one. I mean, Minjal and Vishal both have one. I just used Vishal's when I was doing this. I'm definitely getting one because I do use a mechanical pencil and I use a 0.7 because I like that thickness. But I use a regular old plain generic plastic one, and it just does not have the feel of this.
The thing I like about the 0.7 in specifically is that you can get a great deal of line expression and width without having to go over it several times. With the 0.5s and the 0.3s there are now. 0.5s are where we all started, I think. Those were just like the mechanical pencil when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I saw 0.7s as I grew older. But you can get, like we showed you, you can get very, very thin lines out of this as well. So that would almost mimic a 0.3. But you can get anything up to, a really nice wide line. That's why I like the 0.7.
So, as much as we love Indian stationery, we unanimously love Japanese stationery, right?
Yeah,
I think we just love stationery.
Yeah, I think.
And when we find one that's just the best example of what it is, we love it that much more.
We certainly have access to a lot of Indian stationery being in India, but we are not at all jingoistic in that sense. Whoever makes a good thing or a bad thing, we will try it out.
Pentel is not a company that's known mainly for its pencils.
Right.
I mean, it's Pentel, right? I'm guessing the pens are the thing.
No, I mean, strangely enough, the name Pentel comes from pen and telling a story. It was a Japanese made up word that they just kind of made a company name out of it, and they started making crayons when they first started in 1947 or so, I think.
So that would be just like Sakura.
Yeah, but much later. And what Pentel is actually known for is for inventing the sign pen, and essentially the felt tip pen, because the sign pen was the first felt tip pen in the world.
And we'll be covering one of those in a future episode.
So Pentel is, yes, it's interesting that this is something that they are not exactly known for, but it is definitely the favorite one that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I'm tempted to try out the Graph 1200 or 1000 because they're available now. I don't know if I kind of want to find out whether that's better or not.
Just on a personal choice level, I think I've seen the Graph 1200, the pictures of it anyway, and it just seems a lot bulkier, and I don't know if that would work for my kind of drawing. Like I'm rarely sitting down in a very balanced technical drawing situation.
There is a certain, I like that movement, where the back of it kind of skirts over your knuckle there. That's something that I like having access to with this weightage and this kind of thing. I don't know if I can find it even in some of our other pencils that we like the Apsara Platinum Extra Dark, which we'll be doing an episode on pretty soon. I can't do that with it. I know that's a stupid thing, but on a page sometimes you flick that way and you get these, if you're drawing something a bit more like loose, when you're starting off and you want to just put down, just any random line, this one works out better, and then you can, you cohere it, and then you figure out, okay, I can see a shape in there. It's great for exploration. As much as Minjal, you did technical stuff in Ligne Claire, and so did I. I did a much more structured drawing than even I thought I would do. Sometimes you just want to explore like this and just find shapes. And then as you go along, you can press the pencil in more as you get more confident. But when you start off, you just literally you go however you want, and then then you bring it in, you make something of it, and the Pentel Graph 600, it's a beauty.
And that's the reason why we test out what might seem eventually to be very, very similar things over and over again. But the point is that each of these objects and each of these tools has a very individual design to it, and there might be one that you like and that works for you, or the way that you hold the pencil or the way you draw And it's important to test out all of these different things and find the one that really works for you.
Now, I don't know. I know this is a joke in artistic communities where you can draw the greatest thing in the world and people will still ask you what pen did you use. But it does make a difference. Minjal, as a calligrapher mainly, is this a thing that happens to you there as well, where people are more interested in what pen you use than what the actual work is?
Yes, I mean, if you look at the Instagram accounts of calligraphy artists across the world, the minute they put up an artwork, there will be 60 people asking which pen have you used, what ink have you used, what is the nib size. So I think people also sometimes forget that, like we've been saying, simple tools, inexpensive tools can also create and produce, really solid artwork. So it's not just about the tools.
And at the same time, this is by our sort of run so far, not an inexpensive tool. This is $4 or $5, which is quite a bit for some people for a pencil. They'll spend that on their latte, but not on a pencil. Whereas I was glad to spend it on this. I've seen pencils that are 3 or 4 times this. Let's just name names. I tried the Muji one that people seem to love at a Muji store. It was not as good, and it was 4 times as much as this, where I was seeing it.
I've used the Staedtler mechanical pencils, not as good.
Right. So it comes down to an individual fit. We certainly went with this one. You might love the Staedtler, and I'd love to see work you've done with that, with the Muji, with some Baroque pencil that you've carved out of the bone of a endangered species. Maybe that works for you. This works for us.
And again, that's the reason why we are 3 people testing out the same thing, because we don't always agree on these things.
Yeah, there are many episodes.
Many episodes where I like something and Minjal doesn't, or Minjal likes something and Vishal doesn't, and that's fine. That's exactly the point. You need to test these things out and figure out what works for you. And once you realize why they work for you, then it just lets you find better things quicker.
And then you'll get to that hallowed position where people are just asking you what pen you use, because you have gone past that point and understood it. But you can't bring everyone with you. We wish we could bring you on all our journeys, but you will certainly we'll appreciate that you show up for the rest of our stationery test drives going forward, and the ones that we've done before if you're new here. Please follow us online. Our names are on screen right now, and you can find our social media as well as in the links in the description. Usually there are links to the products as well, by the way. If you have trouble finding them, some of them are maybe specific to India or specific to elsewhere in the world.
We try to link them as far as we can.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll be able to find most of them or equivalents of them. If you do find equivalents of them in the same price range or in the same use range, please show us what you have done with them. Follow us online, follow us on our social media, follow the Inky Memo newsletter, which has many great stories about the history and provenance of tools and techniques. We will be back soon with another test drive with 3 new looks at things, sometimes tools that we have never used before, or that only one of us has used, or that we will vehemently disagree on as to whether it's good or not. Until then, I'm Vishal.
I'm Samir.
I'm Minjal.
And clutch those pens.
Or pump them.
Or pump them.